Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Boyd. This is Temple Baptist Church, and we are glad you have joined with us today. You know, I don't know about the weather where you are at, but the weather here is really, really beautiful right now. It's fall. It's fall. It's finally here. My favorite time of year. You know, cool in the evening, a little warm in the daytime, very dry. And we've had 2 or 3 perfect days, if there is such a thing, in a row. And the weatherman says we have about 4 or 5 more ahead of us. So I am just excited to be alive and grateful to be here with you this morning. You know, we've been going through our series titled Seeing Yourself. And today we're talking about seeing yourself as a witness of the truth, a witness of the truth. You know, when a person is called to take the stand at a trial, they raise their right hand and are asked to say, you know, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And they say, I do. You know, I wish our news outlets would take that oath and stick to it. You know, all the news channels, they claim to present the facts, nothing but the facts, and they always present the truth, but the truth they present has a spin to it. It always seems a political leaning. Or it's kind of skewed. Or the truth is partial. Such that when you present a skewed and partial and a political leaning truth, you wonder if it's really the truth at all. And it's not just with news, it's with Hollywood as well. You know, we were out to see our son Kevin a year or so ago, and one of his friends works at Universal Studios, and he took us behind the scenes. And it was really awesome to see everything that takes place that no one really knows about. And he took us to this one set, and he said, hey, this set was set up this way and was used in this movie. But then they came in and they rearranged things, painted things, set it up differently, and it was the same set was used again in a different movie. Then he said that they came in and they switched stuff around again and painted, added some different things to it, and this same set was used again in another movie. And it was blowing my mind. And, you know, it's like, wow, there's nothing real here. And he said, he said, you know, Scott, you got to realize nothing in Hollywood is real. Everything's fake. Everything is make-believe. Everything is created. But the special effects are so awesome, and the computer graphics are so real, but it's all fake. It's all false. Nothing is true. I received a robocall the other day. I decided to take it. I usually don't take it, but I thought, let me see what this is all about. So a robocall came in. I hear a person on the other end. It sounded like a real person. It sounded like a legitimate individual, and a young lady in her voice and talking, and she asked a question and paused. And I asked her the ultimate question. I said, are you a real human being? And she said, oh, yes, I'm a real human being. And she giggled. So we continued a little bit further, but then something else happened to make me realize she was not a real human being at all. Man, they're getting so good with this stuff. You know, what is false? What is true? And who says? You know, in our passage today, Jesus talks about truth. You know, the year's about 80, 33. His ministry is coming to a close. He's been betrayed by the religious rulers, forsaken by his people, deserted by his disciples. He would soon be crucified. And we pick up in our passage today as a story as they prepare to take Jesus to Pilate, the Roman governor, because even though they could not crucify Jesus, they did not have the authority he did. John chapter 18, verse 28. Then the Jews led Jesus from Caiaphas to the place of the Roman governor. By now it was early morning, and to avoid ceremonial uncleanness, the Jews did not enter the palace. They wanted to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate came out to them and asked, what charges are you bringing against this man? If he were not a criminal, they replied, we would not have handed him over to you. And Pilate said, take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. But we have no right to execute anyone, the Jews objected. This happened so that the words Jesus had spoken, indicating the kind of death he was going to die, would be fulfilled. You know, it's easy to accept a truth, a new truth, when it agrees with the truth that we already believe in. You know, when someone tells us that Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls were the best basketball team ever, and we already believe that Jordan's Bulls were the best basketball team ever, we nod our heads and say, yeah, they were. But if someone comes to us and says to us, well, no, Magic Johnson's Lakers or Larry Bird's Celtics, they were the best basketball teams ever, and we believe the Bulls were the best basketball team ever, what do? We begin to push back. We began to try to prove to them why the Bulls were the best team ever and not the Lakers or not the Celtics. You know, we disagree. You know, the reality of human beings is that once we've gone to all the trouble to form an opinion about something or someone, because we've spent all that effort and energy and time to come up and end up with that opinion, that truth, it's awfully hard to move us from what we already believe. So when someone presents to us a truth that contradicts our truth, we push back, and we push back hard. And the more passionate we are about our truth, the more closely we hold on to it, the greater effort we make in pushing back. And in fact, it gets to the point if we're really super passionate, we begin to attack not only the truth that the other person is trying to push on us, but we begin to attack the person themselves. You know, this last Saturday afternoon, Kirsten, our daughter, she came and told me that her tire, her front passenger side tire, had lost tire pressure that afternoon. It had gone down from about 33 psi to 22 psi. And when a tire loses that much air pressure that rapidly, it usually means it took a nail. And I said, Kirsten, you probably took a nail. So that Saturday night, I crawled under the car and with my flashlight, I looked there at her tire, and sure enough, there was a nail right in the center of her tire, the passenger front tire. And I tried to pull on the nail, and it wouldn't come out. And because I didn't want to, if it's too far in there, I pulled it out. Because I didn't want to deflate the whole tire right there in the garage, I decided to leave it alone. But I took a yellow piece of chalk and I drew around the nail. Then I took the chalk and I made a big yellow arrow on the side of the tire, pointing to right the point where the nail was in the tire. Then I noticed on the tire, it was right on the big, lined up with the big letter D for Goodyear. So I had all set. So we went to church last Sunday morning. Then after church, Kirsten took her car down to the Tire and Lube Express at the Walmart in Savoy to have them check it out. And we picked her up and then went to eat lunch. Well, while we're eating lunch, they call, and Kirsten takes the call, and they said, hey, we didn't find any nail. And I'm hearing this conversation. I said, what? They didn't find any nail. Let me talk to them. And I told them everything I had done. I'd crawled under the tire. I'd found the nail. I didn't want to pull it out. I marked it with a chalk mark. I marked it with an arrow. It's right there, the letter D for Goodyear. I said, and nails just don't jump out of tires. And so she said, all right, we'll check it again for you. Well, we finished our lunch, and they hadn't called back, so we drove down there. And Mark, a good friend of ours, who's a technician there, he said, Scott, you know, we took the tire back off. I looked at it myself. I put it in water. We let it sit. It's lost no air pressure at all. And he said, I did this personally myself to make sure we took care of you. And I said, Mark, that can't be true. He said, well, the car's out there if you want to check it. So I personally walked across Walmart's parking lot, personally crawled under Kirsten's car in my good Sunday clothes, personally looked right where the nail was marked by my yellow chalk mark, is right there, and I looked under there, and guess what? No nail. No, I guess nails just do jump out of car tires. Who would have thought? But Mark, I tell you what, if you're listening to this, I bet that you guys pulled the nail out past the tire just to mess with me. You know, and the Jews believed that they could work their way to God. They believed that they could be good enough to get to God. And so they had established an entire system of worship, of doing good works, of keeping the laws, of good deeds, of measuring and seeing who was in and who was out, and keeping track, sort of keeping score of the number of good deeds they could do. But then Jesus came and said, well, no one can be good enough. And in reality, I'm the only way to get to God. And so Jesus' truth clashed with their truth, and they were so passionate about their truth that they had to execute Jesus for it. But you know, we do the same thing, don't we? Jesus claims that he is the way, yet we decide to live life our way. Jesus calls us to obey him, yet we go about following our own rules. You know, and we ourselves, we reserve the right to determine our futures rather than accepting the future that Jesus has for us. And with callous indifference, we crucify everything Jesus came to do, just like the religious leaders wanted to. And the Jewish religious leaders set out to crush the truth. But Pilate, the Roman governor, he wanted to question the truth. Verse 33. Pilate then went back inside the palace, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Is that your own idea?" Jesus asked, "or did others talk to you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied. "It was your people and your chief priests who handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" And Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king then," said Pilate. All right, here we have an interesting exchange, a fascinating exchange between Jesus and Pilate of a question being answered with another question. Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus asked Pilate, "Is that your own idea, or did others talk to you about me?" Pilate asked Jesus, "Am I a Jew?" Before Jesus can answer his question with another question, Pilate asked Jesus again, "What is it you have done?" It is only then does Jesus answer not Pilate's last question, but Pilate's original question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus answers, "No, I'm not the king of the Jews, because my kingdom is not of this place. My kingdom is from another place, from another world." And Jesus is saying to Pilate, I'm not just the king of the Jews, or just the king of the Gentiles, or just the Romans, or just the Americans. No, I'm the king of everyone and everything for all time. I remember watching the Larry King live talk show a while back. You know, a talk show where he interviews different people and asks them questions, and they dialogue back and forth together. And on this particular show, he was interviewing Rick Warren, who's a significant minister out in Southern California. And they were talking. And Larry King has some religious teaching. And he asked Rick Warren, he said, "You know, did Jesus say that I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to God except through me?" And Rick Warren replies back, oh, yes, he did. And Larry asked him, well, doesn't that seem kind of arrogant to you? And Rick looks at him and replies back, yes, it does, unless it's true. Jesus' kingdom is not of this world. You know, here we often sing the song, God Bless America. And that's an awesome song, and I love it. But we sing it as if we're getting God on our side. But God is not on anyone else's side, much less our side. You know, it's not about us getting God on our side. No, history is all about God and doing his best by sending his son to give his life for us so that he would get all of humanity on his side. And Jesus says, my kingdom is from another place. It's not of this world. My kingdom is the kingdom of heaven. And you've got to accept my truth to have any hope of being able to step into my kingdom. And the Jews set out to crush the truth. And Pilate was all about questioning the truth. But Jesus, he came to testify to the truth. Verse 37. And Jesus answered, you are right in saying I am a king. In fact, for this reason I was born. And for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. What is truth? Pilate asked. You know, that's how we know that Jesus' kingdom was not of this world, because kings of this world lead armies. They wield power. They conquer people. They divide lands. They legislate and they rule. They could care less about truth, much less testifying to the truth. But the very reason Jesus was born and came into our world was to testify to the truth. Even if people tried to crush him, even if people constantly questioned him, Jesus came to testify, even if they crucified him for it. Because Jesus came so that everyone would have the opportunity to hear the truth and open their hearts and maybe even receive it. Jesus said, everyone on the side of truth listens to me. Everyone who hungers, thirsts for, longs for truth finds it in Jesus. And Pilate asked, what is the truth? The truth was standing right there before him. And he didn't even recognize it. You know, maybe you have not recognized the truth, seen the truth until this morning. But maybe your eyes have got a glimpse of the truth. And maybe your heart is starting to hear Jesus' truth for you. That he came for you. That Jesus gave his life for you. The truth that the life Jesus brings, he wants you to experience in your life. And the truth that as you accept his truth and follow his truth and obey his truth, one day you will be with him in heaven with the truth. And the way you begin to experience the truth, the life that Jesus has for you, is taking that first step. Now that you've heard it, to take that first step and respond to it by saying, Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. Opening yourself up to everything that Jesus has for you. All the truth that is meant for you. And begin to live out of that truth and experience his life. Or maybe you've already heard the truth and responded to it. Maybe you're already following Jesus. But your life needs greater authenticity. Your life needs to be more truthful, more genuine, so that others might experience Jesus' truth through you. And maybe your prayer needs to be, Jesus, help me know more fully your truth. Help me live your truth. Help me be your truth. So that others might discover the truth through my life. Jesus says, whoever is on the side of truth listens to me. Dear God, help us to listen for the truth. Help us to open our eyes to the truth. Help us to prepare our hearts for the truth, so that Jesus, the truth, might come in and might help us understand and so that his truth would become our truth and that we would live out of that truth. Dear God, thank you for the time we've had to worship here today and for what your word says to us where we live. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for joining us today. Man, I hope the weather, as I said, where you are is as beautiful as it is here, and that God would keep you safe and bring you back to join with us again next Sunday. May God bless. Have a wonderful week.